students, let us study some more uses of bacteria. The use in genetic engineering. Using nanotechnology, different strains of bacteria are being used as biological pest control. So when two genes are put together and a new variety is formed, it is put into the plants so that pests will not come near it. So this is another use of bacteria in genetic engineering. Another use is biological treatment of waste or sewage. So in this, the industrial waste, before going out of the industry, it is treated with bacteria and fungi or some algae, which will biodegrade or decompose or change the organic matter into good products like biogas and compost. Now coming to harmful bacteria. Harmful bacteria causes spoilage of food, then food poisoning and disease. Some of the disease are cholera, TB or tuberculosis, tetanus, typhoid and botulism. When this happens, there is only antibiotic can stop it. So you have to be careful with what you drink or eat, because some bacteria is there we cannot make out unless it goes in our body, and then there is stomach upset, etc. Now coming to the next kingdom, that is kingdom Protista. Kingdom Protista belongs to single-celled organisms and they are eukaryotic. The difference between monerans and Protista are, these are eukaryotic, that means they have a well-defined nucleus. The cell membrane is there over its cell, the membrane-bound nucleus, and also it has mitochondria and Golgi bodies in it. So these are Protista, single-celled organisms. Most of them are single-celled organisms. They live in aquatic medium like ponds, rivers, lakes, seas, etc. Some may be terrestrial in soil. Now, some examples are amoeba. We are taking amoeba example. Then there are others like Euglena, Paramecium, etc. All these have different ways of locomotion. Amoeba, as we all know, it is irregular in shape. It has a well-defined nucleus, and for locomotion it uses its pseudopodia. Now what is pseudopodia? It is false feet. Finger-like projections you can see here. These, if the prey is here, it will go in this direction. If the prey is here, it will go in this direction. So it will change its direction according to where it can sense where there is danger, it will move away from it, or when there is prey or food, it will go towards it. So the nutrition part of it, it is autotrophic. Most of them are autotrophic. This is they can make their own food. Euglena is unique protist because this is unique because it is sometimes autotrophic and sometimes when it has a chloroplast, so it uses chlorophyll to make food, and when there is no sunlight, it acts as a heterotroph. Now, some others are parasitic examples, parasites in our body, like Plasmodium, which causes malaria. These are also protists which cause problems, and another one is entamoeba. Plasmodium causes malaria in humans, and entamoeba causes amoebiasis. Now let us study amoeba. Amoeba has a very irregular shape and a very thin plasma membrane. This plasma membrane is very thin. What happens is it has the cytoplasm inside is divided into outer part, that is ectoplasm, and inside part is endoplasm. So the ectoplasm and endoplasm, both of these help in the movement and also engulfing the prey. Large contractile vacuole may be present inside the endoplasm. Here, large vacuoles may be there, and there are water vacuoles and also food vacuoles which will store food. Now nutrition in amoeba. What happens is when there is prey or food material, this cytoplasm will just go towards this side and this will enlarge and it will go towards this side. You can see figure 2.10 in your textbook. Now this will proceed towards this direction and this will come here along with it, and then both the sides it will protrude and it will just close it, and this food will be taken inside the amoeba cell and it will be fused with the cytoplasm to form a food vacuole. Now, so in amoeba the process of nutrition is called holozoic. Holozoic means ingestion takes place, the taking in of food, then digestion will take place. When this food material goes inside as a food vacuole, then what happens is the cell membrane, it will be engulfed inside. So the vacuole will secrete some enzymes, and these enzymes will digest organic matter and it is absorbed by the cell itself for the growth. So there is digestion also taking place. After that there is absorption of this organic matter which is important for the cell to survive, and later on there is assimilation. So the soluble form of food is absorbed and used by the body for growth, that is assimilation. And what happens is in that food vacuole, now this is the food vacuole, this is the nucleus. In this undigested part, what is left, this vacuole will come close to the periphery of the amoeba cell, and slowly this will break open, this will come here, this will break open, and the food what is undigested will be thrown out of the cell. So this is called ingestion. So all these processes take place. One is ingestion, taking in of the food, then is digestion, that enzymes will be produced by the vacuole, then absorption, then assimilation, and what is not required is thrown out of the body, egestion. Now this food which is taken in is in the form of solid particles. So when this solid food is taken in, ingested, digested, absorbed, assimilated, and the remaining part is thrown out of the body, all these processes together happening is called holozoic nutrition. Now coming to locomotion of amoeba, this engulfing of food and locomotion is similar because this cytoplasm acts as a source for which direction to move. The flow of cytoplasm will be in that direction. If the flow direction cytoplasm is in this direction, this amoeba will move towards this side. If it is going this side, then this flow of cytoplasm will be in this upper direction. So locomotion is basically based on the movement of cytoplasm, like how it goes to engulf the prey. It is similar. Now respiration. Coming to respiration. Amoeba respires through its general body surface. We cannot call it skin. This outer covering is called general body surface. So what happens is in the open atmosphere there is a lot of oxygen outside. So because of diffusion, amoeba will take in oxygen. Oxygen will go through the general body surface inside, because here it is more oxygen compared to the oxygen in the cell, compared to the oxygen in the amoeba. Now when this oxygen is used up by the cell, carbon dioxide will be produced. That should be given out. Carbon dioxide will be given out of the cell because here the concentration increases. So what happens in diffusion? Respiration is by diffusion process. In diffusion, what happens is the movement of gas or liquid or solid takes place from high concentration to the lower concentration. So oxygen goes in, carbon dioxide goes out by diffusion. Now coming to reproduction in amoeba, there are two methods. Reproduction in amoeba is two types. One is binary fission. And the second one is multiple fission. Now what happens in binary fission? The amoeba, the nucleus first divides into two, then the cytoplasm will also divide and form two daughter cells. They will grow and again into mature amoeba and then again divide into two. This way it will continue binary fission when favorable conditions are there. When there are unfavorable conditions, what happens is the same amoeba in a single cell, the nucleus along with cytoplasm forms many parts. So here there will be one nucleus, here one, many, and divided and surrounded by cytoplasm. So when favorable conditions return, it will burst open and all of them will be outside in the water or soil wherever they are present. So this way, before forming this, a cyst will be formed by the cell membrane. A cyst will be formed, very hard covering, which will not harm the inside parts during the unfavorable conditions. So when favorable conditions return, this will dissolve and slowly it will burst and it will be all out. So these are the two methods of reproduction, how amoeba reproduces, by binary fission and multiple fission. This happens when food is available in plenty. This happens when food is not available in plenty. Now coming to the next is kingdom fungi. The third kingdom under this 5 kingdom classification is fungi. Now, they are plant-like organisms but non-green. The difference between the protists and the monerans is they are multicellular. Their body is made up of many cells. They are, except yeast. Yeast is one example which is unicellular. Except yeast, that is one cell, that is unicellular. All other fungi are multicellular. Now, because they are non-green, they are non-photosynthetic, so they cannot make their own food, they will depend on others. So their way of nutrition is saprophytic. They have a very well-defined nucleus, so they are eukaryotic. The nucleus is double-bound membrane and only they lack plastids. They have other organelles also. They lack plastids. Plastids is chloroplast, etc. to make food. The nucleus is well bound, double layered membrane, nucleus. The body is vegetative, that made up of number of long multicellular filamentous hyphae. Because they lack chlorophyll, they are heterotrophic. They will depend on others for food. So they will grow on dead and decaying matter, and they are saprophytic in their way of nutrition is saprophytic. Some of them are parasitic also, which depend on a living host, which depend on the organic matter which is present in the living body of another organism. So they are deriving nutrition from them. So they might cause disease like rust or smut in plants. You must have seen some guavas or fruits or vegetables with the dark marks or hard structures. That is this rust and smut. Mushrooms, then toadstools and mold are saprophytic. They depend on the dead and decaying matter, whereas some others are parasitic, but they are not autotrophic at all. Now coming to, there are many other plant and animal disease which are caused by fungi. So when you wear some wet clothes, you will get fungal infection. So you have to take care that they gather together in damp areas. So you have to wear dry, sun-dried proper clothes. Now let's learn an example of fungus, that is Rhizophus. Rhizophus is a common example. You must have realized this. If your tiffin remains in the school one day, the next day when you open it, you have some cottony mass over it. All of you must have experienced once. So this cottony mass is actually these filaments. Many filaments, they are microscopic. You cannot see them like this. This is under microscope image. So this fungus also comes for your things like stale bread, cake, pudding, anything what you make, pickles. So from our ancestors used to always use some oil over the pickles or a lot of sugar and salted food and all to get rid of this fungus. So today what we see is even leather bags and bags, if they are kept in a damp place for a long time, and if you use it after a long time, you will get some itching. This is because fungal growth is there on it. You cannot see it. Sometimes you can see. Now damp clothes, also paper, if it is kept for a long time in one place and there is some moisture around, it will get the fungus. So you have to take care of all these things. Now coming to the hyphae, how they get nutrition, Rhizophus. There are some root-like structures which also grow downwards. They grow on your bread. Now think that this is on your bread or a cake which is left over for 2-3 days without consuming. Now this will grow into the bread or your cake, and there is organic matter in it, so it will absorb, this roots will absorb. These are rhizoids, these are called rhizoids. So they will just go inside and absorb what food material is there, organic food material is there, and they will depend on that for food. Now some of them are growing upwards. These will just, they are called sporangiophores. Sporangiophores with oval structures called sporangium, and inside them are many spores. So these are bearing spores. So these take nutrition from the other source. The single cell, multicellular single hyphae with cytoplasm inside and many nucleus inside. The nutrition is saprophytic because they obtain food from the dead and the decaying matter, and sometimes from like parasitic origin. Now hyphae will penetrate into the pickles or your food stuff and just absorb. They will secrete some enzymes, and these enzymes will digest the food particles and change it into absorbable material which are absorbed, and they grow on it. Now respiration here is aerobic because they draw oxygen. This can take oxygen from the air around it, and they can give out carbon dioxide. So they grow anyway on stale things, but they require oxygen from your surroundings for their respiration. Mostly they grow in humid places. Humid means where there is more of moisture around us. So they can absorb the things where they are moist. Always it is said to keep the things in dry containers, because this should not happen. Fungus should not infect your food and stuff. Most of the things you are told to store in dry places, cold places, because of this reason. Now, these are called molds. Also bread mold is same example. So what actually happens is, now this is a tiffin and there is a cake slice here. 2 days it remains. Actually it was fresh when you brought it to school. But this, when it opens, the spores are in the air. The spores are in the air everywhere. One spore or two spores settle on this. Because there is moisture around, they will grow into this structure after 2 or 3 days. Now, there are also useful fungi. One important fungus is used in our medicines, penicillin. The first penicillin was made from a fungus. You must have heard the story of Alexander Fleming. He was doing a research on something. Suddenly he got a cut on his hand and he left the research there and went home. And he was eating a sandwich, so he just left it there and went home. So the next 2 days after he returned back, he just felt that his wound was getting better and better, because it just touched, he sensed that it has touched that sandwich which he had left there. And he did research on it and he found out that it was the fungus there which was helping him to be better. And then he came up with the first, that penicillin, the first antibiotic, and it saved so many lives. Now, it is also used in baking, because if fungus like yeast was not used in baking, then your bread would have been just like a biscuit, just flat as a biscuit. So, yeast is used in baking, making cheese, making some other products like alcoholic products like beer and wine, when these fruit juices are kept fermented using this fungi for a long time, they change into this alcoholic products. It is also used as morels and mushrooms which are edible, which we can eat as they are. Now there are one more fungi called Aspergillus niger, which is used for making some acids like citric acid, then gluconic acid, and also soya. You must have eaten soya sauce. Every day you will be using soya sauce in your foods. That is made by using Aspergillus niger bacteria fungi to change it from soya beans to soya sauce. The last use of fungi is as a biofertilizer. Mycorrhiza is one such type where it stays in the roots of some plants, and it is a symbiotic relationship, like a give and take relationship. So it absorbs minerals and water from the soil and gives it to those plants, and the plants in turn gives it food and also shelter. So one more example is in the root nodules of root nodules, how bacteria rhizobium is there, same way it works, mycorrhiza fungi. The last is recycling of nutrients. If there were no fungi along with bacteria in this world, there will be no decomposition taking place of the dead bodies, because they are absorbing this, changing the organic matter into simple products. You cannot see this big mass of dead bodies when during this process. So decomposition, it helps. The main decomposers they work along with bacteria. So this is all for today.